The morning light cut through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Alexander Sterling's penthouse, casting sharp shadows across polished marble floors. At 34, he had everything. Power, money, control, everything except the one thing his mother demanded. "Darling, please don't arrive alone at your brother's wedding." Eleanor Sterling's voice still echoed in his mind, honeyed and cutting, but he knew what she really meant. Victoria Langston would be there. His ex-fiancée who had betrayed him so perfectly, so completely, it had almost destroyed him. And his mother wanted reconciliation. Never. The knock on his office door interrupted his thoughts. "The actresses didn't work out," Sarah said, placing 2 folders on his desk. "They were too polished. Too fake. So what's this?" Alexander gestured to the second folder. "Someone real." Sarah hesitated. "She's not an actress. She owns a used bookstore in Wicker Park. Isabelle Ross. Her shop is 3 weeks from closing." Alexander opened the folder. A single photograph slipped out. A woman on a step stool, barefoot, reaching for a book on a high shelf, dark curls escaping from a messy bun, a cardigan that didn't match her skirt, but her smile was unguarded. Genuine. Something in his chest shifted. Set it up. The next morning, Isabelle stepped into his penthouse wearing a simple yellow dress and carrying a worn leather satchel. No designer heels, no calculated elegance. She looked at him directly. Not past him or through him. At him. Mr. Sterling. Her voice was soft but steady. "Thank you for coming." He cleared his throat, suddenly uncertain. "My assistant explained the situation. You need someone to pretend to love you for a weekend." Her directness caught him off guard. "Right? It sounds absurd." "It is absurd." She set down her satchel. "But I'm listening." Alexander studied her. No judgment in those dark eyes. Just curiosity. Attend my brother's wedding. Smile. Hold my hand. Pretend we've been together for 6 months. He paused. "I'll provide everything you need. Wardrobe, backstory, coaching, and what do I get? $15,000. No questions asked. No strings attached." Isabelle was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her honesty was startling. "I'm 3 weeks behind on rent. My landlord is threatening to sell the property." She met his gaze without flinching. "My bookstore is my grandmother's legacy. It's all I have left of her." Alexander felt something crack in the walls he'd built around himself. "I'm not ashamed to take this opportunity," she continued, "but I won't become someone I'm not. Not even for you." "I wouldn't ask you to." She picked up the contract, reading through it carefully. Then she signed without hesitation, her pen moving confidently across the page. Just like that, they were partners in an elaborate deception. As she prepared to leave, Alexander handed her the rehearsal notes. Their hands brushed, a spark of electricity. Neither spoke of it, but both felt it. "The wedding is in 2 weeks," he said quietly. "We'll need to practice." Isabelle looked up at him, something unreadable in her expression. Practice what? Lying? Practice convincing people we're in love. She held his gaze for 3 heartbeats too long. That might be more dangerous than either of us realize. The door closed behind her, leaving Alexander alone with the contract and the lingering scent of old books and vanilla. He'd hired her to be invisible. A temporary solution. But something told him Isabelle Ross might become the most real thing in his carefully constructed world, and that terrified him more than any boardroom battle ever had. Rain hammered against the windows of Alexander's penthouse as Isabelle arrived for their 3rd rehearsal session. She shook water from her hair, droplets catching the lamplight like scattered diamonds. "You're late," Alexander said, not looking up from his tablet. The L was delayed. She set down her satchel. "Should I apologize?" "A real girlfriend would." "A real girlfriend wouldn't be paid $15,000. He looked up then, and found her watching him with that same unflinching gaze. It unsettled him how easily she saw through his armor. "We need to work on physical comfort," he said, standing. "My family will notice if we're stiff around each other. What do you suggest?" "Dancing." He held out his hand. Isabelle stared at it for a moment before placing her palm in his. The contact sent heat rushing up his arm. He pulled her close, one hand settling at the small of her back, and suddenly the penthouse felt too warm, too small. "Tell me something true," she said quietly as they began to move. "What? If we're going to pretend to know each other, I need to actually know you." Her breath ghosted across his collar. "Tell me something you've never told anyone." Alexander's jaw tightened. "That's not part of the contract." "Neither is this." She pulled back slightly, eyes searching his face. "But we're doing it anyway." The rain intensified. Thunder rolled across the city. "I haven't been able to trust anyone since Victoria," he admitted, the words scraping out of him like broken glass. "She was my business partner's sister. We were engaged for 2 years. The night before our wedding, I found her in bed with him. They'd been planning to take over my company together. The engagement was just access." Isabelle's hand tightened on his shoulder. "They tried to ruin me," he continued. "Financially, professionally, personally. I barely survived it." "And my mother?" He laughed bitterly. "She still thinks Victoria and I should reconcile. For appearances. That's why you need me. That's why I need you." They stopped dancing. Isabelle's hand came up to his face, her thumb brushing his cheek with devastating gentleness. "I'm sorry that happened to you." "Don't." Alexander stepped back. "Don't pity me." "It's not pity." Her voice was fierce now. "It's recognition. I know what betrayal feels like." "What happened to you?" She turned away, arms wrapping around herself. "My fiancé left me at the altar. Literally. I was standing there in my grandmother's wedding dress, and he just didn't show up." Her laugh was hollow. "Turned out he'd been cheating for months with my best friend. They're married now. Have a baby." Alexander felt rage kindle in his chest. "Isabelle, the bookstore is all I have left," she whispered. "Everyone I trusted destroyed me. So I buried myself in my grandmother's legacy and tried to forget what hope felt like." He moved behind her, close enough to feel her warmth but not touching. "We're both broken," he said quietly. "Maybe that's why this works." She turned to face him, 2 broken people pretending to be whole. The air between them crackled with tension. Alexander's hand lifted almost of its own accord, tucking a damp curl behind her ear. Isabelle's breath hitched. "This is dangerous," she whispered. "What is?" "Forgetting this is pretend." His thumb traced her jawline. "Is that what we're doing?" "I don't know anymore." They stood there, suspended in the moment, the rain and thunder providing cover for what neither of them dared to say. Then Alexander's phone shattered the silence. He pulled away, answering it. His face went pale. "What?" Isabelle asked when he hung up. "That was my brother. The wedding venue burned down. They've moved everything up. The wedding is this weekend." He looked at her, something wild in his eyes. "We're out of time. Then we'll have to be ready. Isabelle, my entire family will be there. My mother, Victoria, everyone who watched me fall apart 3 years ago." His voice cracked. "What if they see through us?" She crossed to him, taking his face in both hands. "Then we make them believe." Her eyes blazed with determination. "You hired me to play a part, so let me play it." "This isn't just a part anymore." "I know." The admission hung between them, heavy and terrifying. Alexander's forehead touched hers. "What are we doing?" "Something stupid," Isabelle breathed. "Something reckless. We should stop." "Yes." Neither of them moved. His phone rang again. Reality crashed back in. "That's Sarah. The car for the estate leaves tomorrow at dawn." He pulled away, and Isabelle felt the loss like a physical ache. "Pack for 3 days. My mother's estate is in Lake Forest. And Isabelle, yes? Victoria will do everything in her power to destroy this. To destroy you." His voice turned cold, protective. "She's vicious when she wants something." "What does she want?" "Me, my fortune, my family's approval." He met her eyes. "She never got over losing access to the Sterling Empire." Isabelle lifted her chin. "Then she's about to learn I'm not as easy to break as she thinks." As she left, Alexander watched her disappear into the rain-soaked night. He'd hired her to be a shield. A performance. But somewhere between the contract and the dancing, between the practiced smiles and the raw confessions, something real had taken root, and that made this weekend infinitely more dangerous than he'd ever planned. The Sterling estate rose from the lake forest landscape like something out of a dark fairy tale. All stone and ivy and old money. Isabelle's fingers tightened on Alexander's hand as they walked up the marble steps. "Remember," he murmured. "We've been together 6 months. We met at a charity gala. You love my smile. I love your bookstore. And we're madly in love." Convincingly, the door opened. Eleanor Sterling stood in the entrance, dripping in pearls and judgment. Her eyes swept over Isabelle like a cost-benefit analysis. "Alexander, darling." She air-kissed his cheeks. "And this must be the bookshop girl. Isabelle Ross." Isabelle extended her hand, refusing to flinch. "It's lovely to meet you, Mrs. Sterling." How quaint. Eleanor's smile was sharp as a blade. "Victoria's already here. I'm sure you two will get along wonderfully." They wouldn't. The moment Victoria Langston glided into the sitting room that evening, Isabelle understood. Tall, blonde, polished to a lethal shine. Every inch of her screamed old money and calculated charm. Her eyes found Alexander like a heat-seeking missile. "Alex." Her voice was silk and poison. "It's been too long, Victoria." Alexander's arm tightened around Isabelle's waist. "This is my girlfriend Isabelle." Victoria's gaze sliced over Isabelle, dismissive and cruel. How sweet. She smiled. "Tell me, Isabelle, what do you do?" "I own a bookstore. How charmingly retro." Victoria sipped her champagne. "I'm sure that's exactly what Alexander needs. Someone simple." "Victoria." Alexander's voice held a warning, but Isabelle squeezed his hand. "Simple has its advantages. Honest, real, uncomplicated by ambition or agenda." Victoria's smile turned predatory. "Oh, I like her. She has fire." The weekend unfolded like a beautiful nightmare. Every moment was performance, every touch calculated. But between the rehearsal dinner and the garden party, between the forced smiles and practiced intimacy, something real kept bleeding through. Late Saturday night, unable to sleep, Isabelle wandered the estate gardens. The scent of roses hung heavy in the humid air. She found Alexander by the fountain, tie loosened, jacket discarded. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. "Too many ghosts." He looked at her. "You were incredible today. My mother almost believes us." "Almost?" She said, "You're too genuine to be trusted." He laughed without humor. "She thinks genuine people always have the deepest cons." Isabelle sat beside him on the fountain's edge. "Maybe she's right. What do you mean?" "Maybe I am a con?" She met his eyes. "Because I'm not pretending anymore, Alexander. And that terrifies me." His hand found hers in the darkness. "Isabelle, I know it's stupid. I know it's not real. But somewhere between the contract and right now, I started falling for you." Her voice cracked. "And I can't afford that. Neither of us can." Alexander pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. "This was supposed to be simple. Nothing about us is simple." They sat there, tangled together under the stars, until footsteps on gravel shattered the moment. Victoria emerged from the shadows. How touching. Her voice dripped with venom. The fake girlfriend catching real feelings. Isabelle stood. "You're eavesdropping." "I'm observing." Victoria moved closer. "Did you really think I wouldn't investigate you, Isabelle? Did you think I wouldn't discover the truth?" Alexander's face went white. "Victoria, don't. Oh, this is delicious." Victoria pulled out her phone. "Isabelle Ross, failed engagement. Bankrupt bookstore. Desperate enough to accept $15,000 to play pretend for a weekend." She showed them the contract. Alexander's contract. "I have copies of everything, Alex. Every email. Every transaction." Isabelle felt the world tilt. "How did you get that?" "Your assistant Sarah is remarkably cooperative when offered the right price." Victoria's smile was triumphant. "I've already sent this to Eleanor, to the entire family. By morning, everyone will know you paid some desperate girl to fake a relationship. You vindictive witch." Alexander moved toward her, but Isabelle caught his arm. "Let her go," Isabelle said quietly. "She's already won," Victoria laughed. "At least she's smart enough to recognize defeat." She turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Isabelle? The bank called. Your bookstore officially forecloses Monday morning. Thought you should know." She disappeared into the darkness, leaving devastation in her wake. Isabelle turned to Alexander and found him staring at her with something like horror. "You knew." he whispered. You knew Sarah would sell us out. What? No, I didn't. You said she already won. Past tense. Like you expected this. His voice turned cold. Were you in on it? Was this whole thing a setup? Alexander, no. Panic clawed up her throat. I would never do that. How do I believe you? He stepped back. How do I trust anything after Victoria? After everything? His eyes were wild, wounded. Maybe my mother was right. Maybe genuine people do have the deepest cons. Please. Tears burned down Isabelle's cheeks. Please don't do this. The contract is void. The deal is off. He was shutting down, walls slamming back into place. I'll have my lawyer wire you half the money. For your trouble. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? You. The word tore out of her. I want you to believe me. To trust that what we had was real. We didn't have anything. His voice was ice. It was all pretend. Remember? He walked away, leaving Isabelle alone by the fountain, her heart shattering into pieces too small to ever put back together. Thunder rumbled in the distance. The storm was coming, and Isabelle had just lost everything that mattered. The wedding was a nightmare dressed in silk and champagne. Isabelle stood in her designated guest room, staring at the emerald dress Alexander had bought her. Her eyes were raw from crying. Her phone buzzed incessantly with calls from her landlord, her lawyer, her dying bookstore's creditors. By Monday, it would all be gone. A knock interrupted her spiral. Come to gloat? Isabelle called out, but it wasn't Victoria. It was Eleanor Sterling. May I come in? The older woman's voice held none of its usual frost. Isabelle opened the door, too exhausted to fight. Eleanor entered, immaculate in cream Chanel. She studied Isabelle with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Victoria showed me the contract, Eleanor said. She's downstairs now, spreading the story to anyone who'll listen. Then why are you here? Because I watched you this weekend. Eleanor sat in the armchair by the window. I watched how you looked at my son, how you touched him, how you defended him. She paused. That wasn't acting. Isabelle's throat tightened. It doesn't matter. He doesn't trust me. He doesn't trust anyone. Victoria destroyed that in him. Eleanor's voice softened. But you got closer than anyone has in 3 years. That terrifies him. I'm not Victoria. I know. Eleanor stood. Which is why I'm going to ask you to do something impossibly difficult. What? Let him go. The words hit like a physical blow. Eleanor moved to the window, looking out at the wedding preparations below. Alexander needs to face Victoria on his own, to finally let go of what she did to him. If you stay, if you fight for him, he'll always wonder if you're just another beautiful lie. She turned back. But if you walk away now, if you sacrifice this for his healing, maybe someday he'll realize what he lost. You're asking me to give up. I'm asking you to love him enough to set him free. Tears spilled down Isabelle's cheeks. I've already lost everything. My bookstore, my grandmother's legacy, and now him. Eleanor reached into her purse and pulled out a check. Not for $15,000, for $200,000. This is from my personal account, not the family trust. Alexander will never know. Eleanor pressed it into Isabelle's trembling hands. Save your bookstore, honor your grandmother, and leave before the wedding starts. Why would you do this? Because you love my son without wanting anything from him. That's rarer than you know. Eleanor's eyes glistened. And because I failed him when Victoria betrayed him, I chose appearances over his pain. I won't make that mistake again. He'll hate me for leaving. Better hate than doubt. Eleanor moved toward the door. The car will take you to the station. Disappear, Isabelle. Completely. It's the only way he'll ever be free. After Eleanor left, Isabelle packed in a fog of grief. She left the emerald dress hanging in the closet. She left a single note on the pillow. You were right. It was all pretend. I'm sorry. She couldn't finish it. Couldn't write the truth that would destroy them both. Downstairs, guests were arriving. String quartet music drifted through the estate. Isabelle slipped out the servants' entrance, her worn leather satchel her only companion. She didn't see Alexander, watching from his bedroom window, didn't see the devastation on his face as her car disappeared down the long driveway, didn't hear him whisper, "Come back." The wedding proceeded in golden perfection. Alexander stood as best man, his smile a practiced mask. Victoria worked the crowd, planting seeds of scandal about the fake girlfriend who'd fled in shame. But then, during the reception, Alexander's brother Marcus pulled him aside. "I need to tell you something," Marcus said. "About Sarah, your assistant. What about her?" Victoria didn't bribe her. Marcus's face was grim. "I did some digging. Victoria hacked Sarah's email, stole the contract. Sarah had nothing to do with it." Alexander's world tilted. "What?" Isabelle was telling the truth. Marcus gripped his shoulder. "And I saw Mom give her something before she left. I think it was money, a lot of it. Why would Mom do that? Maybe because she saw what you couldn't. That girl loved you. Really loved you, and you threw her away." Alexander felt something crack open in his chest. All the walls he'd built, all the protection, it shattered like glass. "I have to find her. Alex, the wedding. I don't care about the wedding." He was already moving, shoving through the crowd. "I have to find her before I lose her forever." He burst out of the estate and into the driveway. But she was gone. Vanished. His phone rang. "An unknown number, Mr. Sterling." A man's voice. "This is James Chen, Isabelle Ross's landlord. She just paid off her entire debt, in cash. Said she was leaving Chicago permanently. Wouldn't say where she was going." Alexander's hand tightened on the phone. "When?" 20 minutes ago. She was at the bookstore, packing. He didn't think. Didn't calculate. Just ran. His car tore down the highway toward Chicago. Rules and speed limits meaningless. Rain started to fall, then pour, the storm finally breaking. He reached the bookstore just as Isabelle was locking the door for the last time. She turned, saw him, and froze. They stood there in the pouring rain, separated by 10 feet and 3 years of trauma. "You came back," she whispered. "I never left." Alexander moved closer. "You did. Your mother said it was the only way to free you." "Free me?" His laugh was broken. "You destroyed me. I saved your bookstore." His voice cracked. "I had the contracts checked. Victoria lied about everything. Sarah never betrayed us. And you were telling the truth." He stopped in front of her, rain streaming down his face. "I threw away the most real thing in my life because I was too afraid to trust it." Isabelle's tears mixed with the rain. "Alexander, I don't deserve you. I know that, but I'm asking anyway." He took her hands. "Don't disappear. Don't sacrifice us for my healing. Let me heal with you. I don't know if I can trust this." "Neither do I." He pulled her close. "But I'd rather risk everything with you than be safe without you. This is insane. Completely." She looked up at him, rain-soaked and vulnerable and impossibly beautiful. "What if we destroy each other? Then we'll rebuild together." Isabelle's hands came up to his face, thumbs brushing his cheekbones. "I love you," she breathed. "I love you, and it's terrifying, and it might ruin us both." "I love you too." Alexander's forehead touched hers. "And I'm done running from the only thing that's ever felt real. Their kiss was rain and redemption and reckless hope, Itty. Was the end of pretending and the beginning of something raw and true and impossibly complicated. Behind them, the bookstore waited, saved, safe, ahead of them, an uncertain future stretched out like an unwritten story. But for the first time in 3 years, Alexander Sterling wasn't afraid of what came next, because he was no longer facing it alone. 6 months later, the bookstore glowed with warm light against the winter darkness. Isabelle had expanded it, adding a small cafe in the back corner. The scent of coffee and old paper filled the air like a prayer answered. Alexander sat on the worn leather couch near the poetry section, laptop balanced on his knees, working remotely while she processed inventory. This had become their rhythm. His penthouse for some nights, her apartment above the shop for others, learning to share space, learning to trust. It wasn't perfect. Some mornings, Alexander still woke up checking for betrayal. Some nights, Isabelle still wondered if she was living a beautiful lie. But they were learning, growing, healing together in ways that were messy and real and worth every difficult moment. The door chimed. Victoria Langston walked in. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Isabelle's hand instinctively reached for her phone, but Alexander was already standing, placing himself between them. "You need to leave," he said quietly. "I came to apologize." Victoria's voice was different, smaller. "I know you won't believe me. I wouldn't either, but I need to say it anyway." "What game is this?" Isabelle asked. "No game." Victoria's perfect composure cracked. "Marcus confronted me at the wedding, in front of everyone, showed them the evidence of what I'd done. The hacking, the lies." She laughed hollowly. "I lost everything. My reputation, my job, the man I was seeing. Turns out karma is real." "You tried to destroy us," Alexander said. "You tried to destroy Isabelle." "I know." Victoria's eyes glistened. "I was so obsessed with what I'd lost that I couldn't see what I was becoming. A monster." She looked at Isabelle. "You didn't deserve what I did to you. Neither of you did. Why are you really here?" Isabelle moved to stand beside Alexander. "Because I'm in therapy now. Making amends is part of the process." Victoria pulled out an envelope. "This is everything. Every file I stole, every lie I told, and a signed confession for your lawyers if you want to press charges." Alexander took the envelope, suspicious. "What do you want in return?" "Nothing." Victoria's smile was sad. "I just want to stop being the villain in my own story. And maybe, someday, learn to be okay with being alone." She turned to leave, then paused. "You two are real. What you have, I saw it that weekend, and it made me crazy because I knew I'd never have anything like it. I hope you know how rare that is." After she left, Isabelle and Alexander stood in silence. "Do you believe her?" Isabelle finally asked. "I don't know, but I know it doesn't matter." He pulled her close. "She doesn't have power over us anymore." "When did you get so wise?" "When I found someone worth being brave for." Later that night, they lay tangled together in her apartment above the bookstore. Rain tapped against the windows. The city hummed below them, alive and electric. "Tell me something true," Isabelle whispered, echoing their first real conversation. Alexander was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. "I used to think love was a weakness, a vulnerability that people would exploit." He turned to face her. "But you taught me it's the opposite. Love is the only thing strong enough to survive betrayal, to survive fear, to survive ourselves." Isabelle's eyes burned with tears. "I'm still scared sometimes, that this will end, that I'll wake up and you'll be gone. I'm scared too." He kissed her forehead. "But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. Promise me something. Anything. Promise me we'll always tell each other the truth. Even when it's hard, even when it hurts." She clutched his hand. "No more pretending. No more contracts. Just us, raw and real and honest. I promise." Alexander's voice was fierce. "No more armor. No more walls. Just us." They kissed, and it tasted like forever. Like hope. Like two broken people who'd found a way to be whole together. Downstairs, the bookstore waited, full of stories about other people's lives, other people's loves. But upstairs, in a small apartment above a saved legacy, Alexander and Isabelle were writing their own story. Not perfect, not polished, but theirs, real true. Worth every risk they'd taken to find it. The next morning, Eleanor Sterling arrived at the bookstore unannounced. She found Isabelle arranging new arrivals in the window display. "Mrs. Sterling." Isabelle straightened. "This is unexpected. I wanted to see it. The bookstore worth sacrificing for." Eleanor studied the shop with appraising eyes. "I also wanted to apologize." "For what?" "For asking you to leave. For thinking sacrifice was the same as love." Eleanor's voice softened. "I was wrong. Love isn't about letting go. It's about holding on, even when it's terrifying. You saved my bookstore. And you saved my son." Eleanor smiled, genuine this time. "That makes us even." She moved toward the door, then turned back. "He wants to marry you, you know. Has the ring already. He's just waiting for the right moment." Isabelle's heart stuttered. "How do you know?" "Because he asked for my grandmother's ring. The one I wore. The one I saved for him." Eleanor's eyes glistened. Welcome to the family, Isabelle Ross, even if the paperwork isn't official yet. After she left, Alexander emerged from the back room where he'd been hiding. You heard all of that? Isabelle said. Every word. He moved behind her, arms wrapping around her waist. So much for my surprise proposal. It's not ruined. She turned in his arms. You could still ask. Not yet. He kissed her nose. I want to earn it first. Want to prove I'm worth the risk you took on me. You already have. Then let me prove it again. And again. Every day for the rest of our lives. Outside, snow began to fall. The first snow of the season, transforming Chicago into something magical. Inside the bookstore, surrounded by stories and second chances, and the scent of coffee and old books, two people who'd almost lost everything held on to each other. The contract that had brought them together was long since destroyed, but the connection they'd built in its place was unbreakable. Alexander Sterling had hired a fake girlfriend to survive a wedding weekend. Instead, he'd found the most real thing in his carefully constructed world, an Isabelle Ross, who'd been drowning in her grandmother's failing legacy, had discovered that sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't a building or a business. It's the courage to love again after being shattered. They stood at the window, watching the snow fall, fingers intertwined. What are you thinking? Alexander asked. That we survived. Isabelle leaned into him. We survived betrayal and fear in ourselves. That has to count for something. It counts for everything. The bookstore bell chimed as customers began to arrive. Life continued, messy and beautiful and real. But in that moment, watching the snow transform the city, Alexander and Isabelle knew one truth with absolute certainty. They had found each other in the wreckage of their broken lives. And together, they had built something worth keeping, something worth fighting for, something real. The end.